me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top, gotta feel the vengeance. In my thoughts.
Welcome back, everybody. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, comment down below, and push the notification bell if you want to know exactly when I'm posting a new video. You can watch it right when it dings on your YouTube. But today, what we are going to talk about is we're going to do a little breakdown of another interesting pick that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, and that is Elijah Higgins. And it is a pick that we got in the 6th round. He is a wide receiver that is transitioning to tight end. So I'm going to break it down for you like this. The guy is 6'3", 235. He's a huge wide receiver. That's why he's transitioning to tight end. What we are going to talk about right now is this guy could either be, of course, a 6th round pick. I'm not going to be over crazy on him and just say he's going to be the next whatever, but he could have the possibility or the potential to turn into maybe another Gesicki or just like a Dalton Kincaid. He could be one of those guys, a Sam Laporta, because to be honest, all he really needs to do is do a couple things and he will then be able to hit that starting lineup. So right now, real quick, he is 6'3", 235, and he ran a 4.5 at the combine, which, of course, for a wide receiver is not particularly fast, but for a tight end, that's the fastest in the whole entire tight end class. So we really have to consider that when we are talking about Elijah Higgins. And what we're going to talk about is there are pros and there are a couple of cons, but I think, honestly, the cons, they have a certain tight end. They always have those types of cons. So right now, you're going to have two different types of tight ends. You have the blocking tight ends, and then you also have the receiving tight ends. And then, the best ones, I think, like Michael Mayer, mix both, where they can do both things, or a Luke Musgrave, or a Tucker Kraft. But with this guy, you have to really see that most of the time. So first off, he was a leading receiver at Stanford this last year, and they used him in a lot of ways, kind of similarly to what Mike McDaniel does with a lot of his players and playmakers. Is there was a lot of movement and motion. So as a tight end, I mean, he's done reverses, he has done running plays, and he can also run routes very well, which is going to transition very, very good at the next level for a tight end. So at Stanford, they used to use him all over the place. They would move him around the field. He can line up in slot. He can line up at wide receiver. He can line up in the backfield. He's a very, very used gadget that they had on that team. So number one is going to be that he was the leading receiver, and they used him in a multitude of ways, and a lot of ways that are very similar to what Mike McDaniel does, where he does a lot of movement. This guy can actually line up. So he might not be ever an inline blocker. That might be what Smythe is supposed to be. But what you can consider is that he can be a gadget player that may line up in the backfield. He might line up out wide. He could line up in the inline and then move around. I mean, he could be everywhere on this field. So first off, we need to realize that it's a receiver that is turning to tight end. So if he gets the weight up and does everything properly, well, you have a much better advantage with this tight end because he was a receiver and he can route run. He has a bunch of yards after catch. He's just a very, very good receiving threat when it comes to the tight end position now. And what I think we need to consider too is that, you're getting that. Of course, the difference with whatever disabilities that he does have is going to be, the difference maker. But you're already getting a guy that can run routes. He can move around the field. He is pretty decently fast. He has pretty good hands. He can move away from people. He gets yards after catch. So you're getting a receiving threat as a tight end. And that's going to be a great gadget player that we can have on the field. Now, secondly, you are in a different coaching staff. So a different mindset, different coaching staff. You have a coach that will bring you up instead of tearing you down. I think with Mike Gesicki, maybe the way that he was shaped from the first coaching staff, he kind of just had it with the whole entire Miami Dolphins organization. But I think with this new staff, you're getting a kid that didn't have the Brian Flores theme under him already. They have a new coaching staff. They have a new everything. And he's going to learn under Mike McDaniel on how to be the best possible tight end that he can be. So what I can say is that now you have a fresh mind coming in, somebody that wasn't tainted by the old regime, and he can now step in and really just fill his role to the best of his potential. Obviously, he's a 6th-round pick, so we are not going crazy. But with the talent that he has, I mean, there's plenty of players that come out in that round that have been successful. He could be a very good gadget player to be on the field. Again, another really fast player that Mike McDaniel typically likes. Of course, there are going to be certain things that we can talk about as well. So, I could talk about his receiving threat all day, but there are a couple things that he needs to work on. But this is stuff that, can be taught, and it can be done. So first off, he's 235, so he's already coming in from a wide receiver frame that is pretty good. I think he only needs to put on like 20 more pounds, and then he'll be efficient in size. So that'll take an off season probably, or maybe 2 off seasons. But you put on 20 more pounds, you get at like 255, then you got your tight end weight. So what they're going to do now is they're going to transition to making him 255, but keeping that speed that he had and allowing him to still be the same speed and the same basic frame, but put on more muscle so that he can, be able to get in line, hopefully eventually in the future. We're not going to expect him to be in line right now. Obviously, he's not going to be big enough, but two-ish years down the road, if he stays on this team, then yeah, he might become an inline blocker eventually. And also, again, this is one of the key things that he really struggles at blocking. But a lot of the receiving tight ends, they do struggle at blocking. Dalton Kincaid really wasn't a good blocker. Who else was there? I'm forgetting some of the other names. So, of course, you're not getting the blocking tight end that you wanted. But also, that's what you have Smythe and the other tight end. I'm forgetting his name. But that's why you have them there, is they are the blocking tight ends. And you'll allow this kid to grow and to fill into his frame and all that. But again, there's a new coaching staff, so you build on the weight and you put more of a proper definition onto blocking, and you could possibly turn the guy into a decent inline blocker. Honestly, what he could turn into is a Darren Waller. That's kind of what their potential could be for this type of player, is that if he fills in and he gets the blocking right, could be the next type of Darren Waller player that has the speed, has the catching and all that, just needs to block a little bit and you're good to go. Again, Elijah Higgins is an interesting pick because, like I said, he could be similar to a Darren Waller, and he could turn into something that could be pretty special because he already has the receiving traits. It's pretty unique having a wide receiver transition to tight end. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of unique to have something like that where a guy is already as big as he is at the wide receiver position, so you don't have to do too much to transition him. So like I said, the 20 pounds, that can come in an off season where you can gain the weight. Hopefully, I'm thinking he'll go possibly up to like 245-ish, 248 probably in this offseason, and then you kind of have the weight that you need, and then you teach him how to block. I don't think he needs to block super efficiently. He doesn't need to run people into the ground, but to at least be able to stop somebody from moving for a second, you're going to teach him that. And if he can get these things down, man, then you have a real receiving threat at the tight end position that you can now move and put in reverses. You can move him around the field. You can do a lot of different things with him, where as with Gesicki, he wasn't as, I don't think he was as mobile as Elijah is. Elijah is a little bit more mobile. He has a little bit more yards after catch, whereas Gesicki was just a catch and then down type of tight end. You know, with Elijah Higgins, you're going to be getting a much tougher guy. You know, no offense to Gesicki, but there was a lot of plays where I just saw Gesicki just go down when there was plenty of yards that could be gained afterwards. And I think it might have been due to the last season that he was with Miami, because I saw Gesicki take hits before. It's just this year he just wasn't really into it. But with Elijah Higgins, you're getting a guy that will take a lot of shots, and he's going to run into people, he's going to move around people, he's going to be able to shake people, and like I said, you get him bigger, And then he can be a real tight end threat that you can move all over the place. And he can be a serious type of tight end that's an underlying gem. But of course, there are always pros and cons to every 6th round pick. There are always going to be, either a boom or bust potential with every past 4th round pick. Most of the time you're just getting a guy that you see some potential in, and he either fills out or he doesn't make the team. So that's what Elijah Higgins could be. But if he does get a couple things right, we could have a pretty decent guy on our squad that we got for a 6th round pick. It happens a lot. I mean, Dolphins fans, it happens a lot. So keep an eye out for Elijah Higgins this coming offseason. Let's see what he does. We'll see what Izukama does as well. But I think with Mike McDaniel, you're just getting a lot of versatile players that you can get the most out of. And if you get the most out of, they can be a special player. As always, hope you guys like this video. It's a quick, short video, just kind of breaking down the draft picks. We got one more left that I'm going to break down, but just want to give you a little heads up on Elijah Higgins and see maybe he could be something. If you hear his name coming up in the offseason and, in the preseason, you know where it first came from. But as always, hope you have a great rest of your day. Fins up. Peace.